in the room so everyone knows. Elaine, great to have you here this afternoon.
Yeah, hi Beth. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Looking forward to hearing some more info.
Yep, definitely. Well, I usually give, like I said, to Shannon, who is going to be hosting with me today to share with us information about WaitWell. Usually we give it about till 3:05 till we officially start. So I just want to thank you all for being here. Just a reminder, our meeting is being recorded. We use that so we can go out to our YouTube channel and promote our vendor partners that are coming in to promote their services and what they can do to help our offices to further modernize, better ourselves, and better our customer experience. And Karen, thank you for being on today. I just want to take a moment and just recognize a few of our board members that are with us. We have Karen Matera, the chairman for NIVTA. She's based out of Florida. Karen, if you wanted to say hi to everyone, I see you're off mute, so I know you're probably able to, if you're able to. All right. Now we'll circle back to her. I already know I heard her say hi, so she might be taking care of something. We also have John Stuck, who is one of our general board members on the call this afternoon. So John is our Kodak partner that is on our team. So he's been doing a lot of things in the modernization space and helping with offices. So he is on our team. And then Tracy Lane is our vice chair, and she should be on the call shortly. I know that she had a client call that she was taking that she said she may be a little late today. So it's great that we're all here together. It's good to see some new faces, but oh, I apologize. Shell, I apologize. You're on the call too. We have Shell, our treasurer. Shell Worthy is on the call as well. Shell, I hope you're doing good. Shell is based in Texas, but also does work in California. Shell, go ahead. I just saw you quickly go to unmute if you want to chime in, add anything.
Hello, everybody.
Perfect. And so, like I said, Shell's based in Texas, but she has a lot of prior working experience in California and still does a lot in that jurisdiction. Just to put a little context to our board, because one of the things we did with NIVTA is really work to have board members that are in all pockets and all regions that kind of run parallel with AMVA's map, based on projects and what the different pockets of the country are experiencing. So we'll just give it another minute here. Shannon, I think we're going to be about ready to go. I don't have anybody else pinging to be admitted into the meeting, so I just give you a fair warning, give you a heads up. I know, right? Get the water. Um, but before you get started, I just want to share with the group a little bit about our past partnership. You as a member, a business partner member, I just want to let everyone know on the call that NIVTA is really proud to have their business partners. And Shannon, along with Jeff, has been wonderful to work with WaitWell. They have been a member now into their second year with us. And if anyone noticed, we are celebrating our second anniversary, going into our third year as an association this month. That actually technically happens on the 25th. So we're really excited about that coming up. And yes, that's right, Shell, time to celebrate. So with that, it's really exciting to have Shannon on today. I am really excited for her to share her background story and how she has developed this company, because I'm finding more and more as I'm in this industry space, lots of lovely people coming to the surface with great product and software ideas, shifting maybe what they're doing for career. And that is why Shannon and Jeff brought in Jill. Jill is a former Louisiana PTA, public tag agent, if anyone doesn't know what that acronym is. And it's so wonderful to have Jill as part of this conversation, because there's nothing better than having live feedback about how a product work in one of the offices like we all operate or we're familiar with. So Jill, thank you so much for being here. Shannon, you as well. I'm really looking forward to hearing your presentation, giving some time for our audience to ask questions. make comments or just talk about maybe an experience they had that challenged them with customer service. And maybe that is somewhere where WaitWell can come in and support them. So just let everybody know on the call as well. We will be providing our registration list to anyone that has been able to log in today, but anyone that registered across the board to Shannon and her team so that they can follow up as well and see if there's anything poignant that they can do after the call today. So thank you so much, Shannon. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and Jill. I know you have support of Jeff in the background. I'm here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and hand it over to you all so you can present. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Beth. I really appreciate it. Jeff and I first met Beth at AMVA in, I'm blanking on what city it was in now. I've been to a few of them. But AMVA is one of my favorite events to go to every year. We go to a lot of events. WaitWell works in different industries, including higher education and medical. But I love AMVA because I have a motor vehicle background, and that's where WaitWell came from. And I really love being able to go to AMVA and learn about how motor vehicle services are delivered in different areas of Canada and the US in particular. Started off in motor vehicles, and I've got an agenda here, so we're just going to start with introductions, and then we'll talk about the problem that I had, the solution that we came up with, and then we're going to hear from Jill so she can share some of her experience as well. Thank you so much for being here, Jill. So first of all, I just thought it'd be, since we're from all over, we've got folks joining from all over the place. I just thought it'd be good to sort of locate. Jeff and I are in Calgary, which is in Alberta, in Canada. We're kind of like Texas, I guess, in Canada. Lots of oil, lots of cattle. And in Alberta, we're very unique in Canada. So we actually deliver motor vehicle services through a network of private registry agents. So there's 220 of us throughout Alberta. And we deliver all motor vehicle services. In Alberta, we actually don't really do titling. Actually, in Canada, we don't really do titling. Our registration is done through provincial databases that are somewhat linked. And so people come in with their proof of ownership and we register the vehicle for them. And then we have a separate personal property database, which we call Appraise, which is where we register liens. And so our team actually has to have motor vehicle database experience. They have to have the personal property database experience. And then in addition to that, we're actually doing things like registering companies. So we're responsible for corporate registry services. We register for people for our universal healthcare program, and where we are, it's called Alberta Healthcare. And we also do vital statistics. So if you have a new baby and you need a birth certificate, if you're getting married, we deal with all of those services as well. And so one of the challenges that I have, of course, with staffing is always cross-training and making sure that staff are prepared for doing all of those different types of services. So quite a different setup, I think, than a lot of states. But having been to a few AMVAs, I know that there's also really huge differences between, Texas and New Jersey and California and Florida. So different, but everything's kind of different as well. So I just wanted to sort of share a little bit about my little company. It was called East Calgary Registry. And I actually purchased it in 2014. It was a really large space. It was about 4,500 square feet. And like I said, we did all of those different services in a really large space. Northeast Calgary, very, very diverse. So we had, I think at one point I had 17 different languages on staff, and that was really important because a lot of our customers were very new to Canada and often, in many cases, had limited English skills. So it was very important for me to be able to match up those people who are coming in with a service provider who not only had the right experience and credentials to serve them, but also had the right language set. And we were using one of those kind of red sort of ticket taker, like what you'd see in a deli. So people pull down the piece of paper and they get a paper ticket. And it was super inefficient. It caused a lot of issues. And then in November of 2019, we moved to a smaller location. So I did a build out specifically for this business and was super pleased. We got rid of the red ticket machine. We went to a physical lineup, much smaller space, brought the operating costs down. I was really pleased with the setup. But of course, 2 months later, COVID kicked in. And so that brought in sort of a whole new swath of challenges. But this is kind of what it looked like. That was my team, the outside and the inside of our brand new registry that I was super proud of back in November 2019. But some of the challenges that we had before the pandemic, just to put it in context, we're a very, very busy location. So we did over 10,000 transactions per month, so over 120 transactions per year. We were the largest road test, the busiest road test location in the province. So we did hundreds, sometimes over 1,000 road tests per month. So really, really busy with that, as well as other motor vehicle services. And some of the challenges that we had was, like I mentioned before, matching customers to the best service provider. So I might have a customer who's coming in to do something really simple, like just need to renew a plate. That's a really simple service. Somebody that I hired 2 or 3 weeks ago could probably do that service for them. But then the person behind them might be there to incorporate a company or to do a legal name change, which is a very complex service that would require much more training and experience. And we would need to match them up with a much more seasoned service provider. So matching customers to the best service provider was always really important. And then, like I mentioned, language as well. Something I refer to as balking or no-shows, which is when somebody joins the line, but then they leave. Or they make an appointment and then they don't show up for their appointment. That always impacted service operations in a negative way. Resource allocation. So, we have busier times of the month. The last couple of days of the month were always really busy when people's plates were about to expire. And then we would get sort of unexplainable surges in demand as well. And matching staff up to the resources, to the demand that I was expecting to have was always a big challenge for me. Customer feedback. So we weren't able to always understand what customers were happy with and what they weren't happy with. And so that was always a really big challenge for us. We would rely on Google reviews. And what we typically found is that people would leave a Google review when they weren't happy. They didn't typically come on just to say that we were doing a good job or that they were reasonably happy, and often didn't give us specific advice about how we could improve our service operations. And then customer communication was always a big thing. So, I would sometimes go around the edges of the original location and ask what people are waiting for, or try to answer a question that they might have while they were waiting. But we didn't have a really efficient way of doing that. Sometimes we would have to escalate a situation to the government, but we wouldn't have a way of tracking where we were with that. So we might be on hold with the government for 45 minutes, but we didn't have a way of communicating with that customer when we got that answer and they could come back and we could complete their service. So those were all the challenges that we had before the pandemic. And then when COVID started, we had all of those same problems. Plus, we had really long lineups. We had to ask people to wait outside. We had to ask people to do physical distancing and stay, 2 meters away from each other. In Calgary, we have terrible weather. Like there's no comfortable days here. It's either way too cold, way too hot, way too windy, or it's snowing. And so asking people to wait outside wasn't really ideal. And then we also really started to see shifting customer expectations. So during that time period, kind of 2021, was when a lot of people learned how to do things like buy their groceries online and have them delivered. We call it click and pay. They started, using things like Skip the Dishes or DoorDash. And so they started kind of using a lot of technologies and then really looking to see that technology being implemented in other services that they might be getting, like, for example, going to the registry office. In addition to this, on a personal level during COVID, I had my 2 most senior staff members decided that this would be a really good time to retire. And early on in COVID, it wasn't really much of a problem because our government had given people an extension on their deadlines. And so there wasn't a huge demand for registry services. And so we didn't really have long lineups initially. But as things began to open up and the demand came back, the lineups grew and grew and grew. And I was honestly at a really sort of a period of crisis where I couldn't hire people fast enough and I couldn't get them trained fast enough. I would literally hire people, put them in training for a week or two, and then they would say, you know what, this is too hectic. It's too chaotic. I don't feel like I can get trained up on this. I just don't really want to do this job. And then they would walk out and I'd have to go and hire new people. So it was, I would say, probably the most challenging period that I've ever had as an entrepreneur. Um, and so that really motivated me to come up with the idea for WaitWell. And what really inspired me was that I saw my visitors to the registry standing with their phones in their hand, and they were looking at their phones. And I thought, if I could just get them to join the line on their phone, they could go sit in their car and they could be updated about their position in line, and they wouldn't have to wait in that line. And then maybe when they got to the front of the line, they would be a little more patient and they wouldn't be so frustrated and they wouldn't take it out on my staff. And then maybe I could keep the staff for a little bit longer. So that was really the inspiration for WaitWell. These are a couple pictures from the registry in the early days. So on the left, you see a kiosk. So that's one way that customers could join the line. They could just simply walk in, select the service that they were there for, put in their name and their phone number. And then if they left their phone number, they would get a text with a link to the status page. And they could also join on their phone just by scanning a QR code. And this is a picture of the sticker that we had on our front door. So those are the two ways that people could join the line. We also had a link on our website. So you could go to our website, click join the line. If you have more than one location, you could select the different locations and you could see what the wait times were at those different locations. And then you could choose to either join the line now, or you could book an appointment for later if you wanted to book to come back at a specific time later in the week or another week. This is just an example of what it looks like to join the line. So we have custom fields, so you can collect as much information or as little information as you want. Minimum would be kind of a first name and a phone number, but you can also collect last names. You can specify service types. You could ask the customers who are visiting to add any files or even to fill out forms so that you have as much information about the service heading into it as possible. Once they've joined the line, just in the browser, there's no need to download an app or anything. This is just using the mobile browser on the person's device. They get a status update page that continuously updates, and it'll let them know what the estimated wait time is and what their position is in the line. And then they can also send and receive messages. So in addition to this on the browser, they can also get SMS texts. And these are all very customizable. So they can say, you can set it up to say exactly, welcome to ABC tag and title. You can have it say exactly what you want it to say at different points in the customer journey as well. So when they first join, when they get to a certain position in line, et cetera, very customizable to the customer journey that you're trying to create in your office. And then, of course, we do appointments as well. So if you want to do walk-ins and you want to have appointments, we can really combine those both together in a really beautiful and efficient way. And like I mentioned before, you can include intake forms. So if you have a series of 20 questions related to a specific service, so maybe if they're there to get a new plate or to register a vehicle for the first time, you can have one set of questions. And if they're there for a different type of service, you could have a whole other different set of questions that you collect at that time. So one of the things when I first launched this back in June 2020 in my government office, one of the first hurdles that I had was my team. So they are already working with the motor vehicle database, the personal property database, the POS system, the staff scheduling software that we used, the credit card system that we use. So they had a lot of different we have a system for closing out plates in different provinces. We call it CCMTA. So they were already using so many different applications, and there really wasn't a huge desire to add another application. So their main concern was like, how hard is this going to be to use? And I would say in general, it's like 5 minutes of training for a staff member. On the left here, you see the navigation that would be available to the administrator. But as an agent, you would only see the top 2 of those. So it can be much more simple for an agent. They can see who is waiting in the lobby. They can see who is waiting elsewhere. You don't have to have those two stages, but it's just kind of nice to be able to control how many people are waiting inside. So when people first join, they're instructed like, you can wait in your car, you can go get a coffee. And then when they get to a certain position in line, they're invited to come inside so that they'll be ready for service when you're ready to take care of them. So that's an optional two-stage wait. You can also see who's being served. So those are kind of the three sections of the queue screen. If we click on these little three dots here, we also get an option to, we can see the recent tickets. We can send an alert to all customers. We can send an alert to all upcoming. We can even turn off the queue. So if we have too many people that are in the line and we're not going to be able to take care of any more customers today, we can actually just pause it for the day. So a lot of different options here. But the main button that an agent has to use is basically just the next customer. So if they click on next customer, it will call the next person who's in line. So the next person who was in line here was Hallie. And Hallie will get a text saying, Hallie, we're ready to take care of you. Please go to desk number 2, or please go to the front of the office, or whatever instructions you want to give for that location. You can click on Hallie's tickets and you have a lot of different options. So you can put Hallie back in the line. You could put a note on her ticket. You could put her back on hold. If you click on the details, you can see, for example, that Hallie has been here 2 times before. You could see all of the messaging that's gone back and forth. You could see any notes that are associated with her ticket. You can see what staff member she's been assigned to, what service she's there for. So it's got a lot of CRM capability built in so that you can actually see the history of that client. We found this at East Calgary Registry. We found this to be really beneficial because a lot of times customers would come in and they would say, I was here last week and the agent who helped me told me this. And, in some cases that may be a bit of a misunderstanding from what they were actually told, but by being able to see who took care of them last week when they came in, we're able to really get to the bottom of customer situations much more quickly. And then, as I mentioned with the tickets, if you click on tickets, you can actually see when Hallie was here, and you could actually open that ticket and see any notes that were associated, who helped them, exactly what time they came in. I have kind of a funny story about this. One time, the Calgary police showed up at our office and they were investigating I think it was a registration of a stolen vehicle, but the person had registered the vehicle using a fake ID. And so they didn't actually have any identifying information for that person. And they wanted to see if I could provide some camera footage. And so I pulled up the camera footage, but of course the person had been, smart enough to wear a hat and had kind of sunglasses. And so you couldn't really see anything in the camera footage. But they had actually used their own actual mobile phone number to join the queue. And so I was actually able to give the police some identifying information for that person. This was probably one of the most useful things that my staff found during the day-to-day use of WaitWell in the early days, was just being able to see that history that they've never been able to see before related to tickets and visit history. Just wanted to mention, we also do online meetings, and the way that we do online meetings, I think, is very unique and works really well for a very fast-paced environment where a visitor, a customer, is not necessarily needing to make an appointment with a specific person, but rather is looking to meet virtually with the next available agent. So we actually integrate with Zoom, with Google Meets, or with Teams. And we can do that not only for a booked appointment, but also for a walk-in. So somebody can actually join the line as a walk-in and be connected virtually for an online meeting as well, which is very beneficial for a lot of different services if you're able to deliver that service online. I mentioned before that when somebody joins the line, you can have them fill out we call it a waiver, but it's basically just an intake form where you can collect information for them. So if you had 25 pieces of information that you wanted to collect with someone before they reach a service provider, you could build that into a specific waiver, and they can be specific to the service type. So if you offer 12 different service types and you want to collect different information for each of those service types, you can actually build a waiver that would be specific for each of your different service types. And those are available within the ticket details menu for each client. We also have the ability to transfer tickets. So we know in some situations, customers arrive and they might join the wrong lineup, and so we're able to transfer them to a different queue or change the service type. One of the things that I really loved as a manager was the real-time dashboard. So just being able to see what's happening in real time. How many people are waiting? What's the peak number of people that we had waiting today? What's the average serve time? What's the average wait time for today? I always kept a really close eye on this as a manager, and I found it to be really beneficial. And this is just giving us like a glimpse, right? So I can paginate and go back at previous days, but this is really just like a slice of how things are operating at this moment. But if you want to dive more into specifics, for example, if you want to know what your wait times are at one location or at many locations, you can dive into the reports. All of our reports are filterable by location, by service provider, by service type, by queue, by date. You can filter, slice, dice, and then download to CSV for any of these reports. We have 40 plus of them. Some of the ones that I know, a lot of our government offices really get a lot of benefit out of our appointment utilization. So trying to figure out how many staff or where to add or reduce hours, the appointment utilization can be really important for them. I know the state of Nevada uses our software throughout the state, and they find that to be probably the most important of their reports. We also have something called a location summary report. So as a manager, if you wanted to receive a report by email, for example, every week, with sort of global stats about your location or about all of the locations that you manage, you can do that. And it will break down all of these stats by service type as well. And these are just the reports that are available with anybody who has a subscription to WaitWell. As an administrator is able to access all of these reports. And then finally, customer reviews. So one of the things that's really cool about WaitWell is after a service is complete, we can send a message to the person who visited your location, and we can ask them to provide feedback. So we can ask them to rate the service out of on a scale of 1 to 5, and then to add any comments. And the thing that makes this really special is that it actually gets linked to the service provider. So if somebody goes on Google and they leave you a Google review, although that's, can be really great for your online visibility, it doesn't necessarily help you to understand how different service providers are doing or how happy your customers are with specific types of services that you're delivering. So we can do one or either. So we can actually do the reviews and the ratings within WaitWell, giving you really granular insight into service operations at your location. Or we can also just send them a link to your Google My Business if it's more important for you to get that online visibility. I found just anecdotally at my registry, we went from a 3.8 to a 4.3 in a period of about 8 weeks. And that was just because prior to WaitWell, we were only getting Google reviews mostly from people that weren't happy. Or were really, really happy, but we weren't getting those like, yeah, I came in, I got what I needed for, I'm happy, 4 or 5 stars. We weren't getting a lot of those. And so we went, our Google score went up quite a bit, and that really helped to improve our visibility. And, we were in a competitive marketplace, so that was really important for us. And then just really quickly wrapping up, I just wanted to touch on WaitWell Chat. So I'm not sure if even Jill will have seen this yet, but WaitWell Chat is the new AI service layer that we introduced within WaitWell. And we think it's really cool. Our customers seem to think it's really cool too. And really what it is allowing end users as well as administrators of WaitWell to interact with the service data that already exists in WaitWell using real natural language. So just as an example, some of the problems that I noticed, like the picture that I showed with the kiosk where you have all the different options, we would present people with options like vital statistics, motor vehicle services, personal property, but they didn't necessarily know, oh, I need a lane search or, I need a birth certificate. They didn't necessarily know which category of services that would go in. And because there were so many services within each category, it was impossible to actually describe them comprehensively. WaitWell Chat really solves that by allowing people to ask in natural language. So when people don't know the service type or the queue to join. And then the other thing that we would notice quite a lot, our location was kind of in a horseshoe shape, and the person who worked kind of in the middle of that horseshoe closest to the door, that was always the really unpopular desk. Nobody wanted to sit at that desk. And the reason is because they would get interrupted constantly. They would be trying to serve a customer and somebody would be like, sorry, I just have a really quick question. Somebody's really quick question is an interruption to a service provider who's trying to give uninterrupted service to their customer who's in front of them. And WaitWell Chat really solves that by allowing people to interact using natural language. So rather than having to select from a list of services like this here, they can click on WaitWell and then just ask a question. So they could ask, do you have a public washroom, or what documents are required for the service, or how long is the processing time? In this case, the student is asking if the student loan has been approved, and WaitWell will let them know what their options are for finding out about this, and will guide them into joining the correct queue if that's what they choose. But sometimes it can actually just give them the information that they need as a quick answer. They might just want to know, do I have to have the proof of insurance, or do I have to have the VIN in order to do this service? So that's really WaitWell Chat, just letting your end users interact using plain language, and maybe even diverting some of those inquiries from your front counter in the first place. And then WaitWell Insights is kind of the same thing, but it's for the administrators. So a lot of administrators, what we hear is things like, I'm drowning in data. I don't know what question to ask. I don't have time to take all of these reports and combine them together. Or I just don't know how to make sense of these reports. I'm not a data analyst, so I don't really know what to do with all the data that I'm able to get within WaitWell. So WaitWell Insights is really about allowing people to ask questions in natural language. So some of the questions that we've seen asked to WaitWell are, for example, which locations are consistently understaffed or overstaffed? Should I extend hours? Should I shorten hours? If I was going to open a new location, where would be the best place to open a new location? Should we stay open later during the week? Maybe even help me create a staff schedule that's really going to optimize service operations. We've seen our customers ask questions like, we're preparing to do some staff training. What would be the best day for us to close where we wouldn't have the most impact on customers? So that's some of the cool sort of AI innovation that we're seeing happening within the platform that not a lot of people have had a chance to look at, but that people are super excited about. And just an idea, like some of the types of insights that WaitWell is surfacing are data around ticket volumes, around wait times, and that kind of thing. Beth,
Thank you,
because I'm
Shannon.
sharing my screen, I haven't really been able to see if anybody had any questions that came up.
We've been chatting a lot about you, Shannon. We've been talking about all this. This is a great thing you're presenting. I've had a lot of comments in the chat. One, our treasurer, Shell, she shared one door closing and a huge, huge opportunity in the technology space. We were talking about your huge operation in your own agency, Shannon. So no, I think everyone's really enjoying this information. I also shared in the chat, Shannon, a couple of things like when you brought up the fact of the customer with the fraudulent transaction. I was typing that in the chat as you just started to bring up that example, but that's a big one that we deal with in the community, is making sure to help the investigators, or if something like that happens, do our due diligence to share contact information. So I think that was a great capture. But in my mind, Shannon, I just can't help but bring up my last comment I put in the chat to everybody, is that with all this discussion around e-titling and digital titling coming into our space in the next decade or so, we have all these variances. This is a really helpful tool to kind of meet those customers where they're doing the transactions online. So I really think that it's been really good presentation, but I'm really excited and interested to hear Jill's feedback from utilizing it in her PTA office. But feel free to add anything else, Shannon. That's all we have in the chat and what's been getting discussed.
Well, I had a chance to meet Jill last week, and I was super interested in not only just her operations, but how she used WaitWell within the operations. So, Jill, I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself, but I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if you could start by just telling us a little bit about OMV, where you're located, and what your service operations look like there.
So we are a public tag agent. We have 4 locations across the state of Louisiana. So, and pretty much what a public tag agent is in the state of Louisiana is pretty much a private department of motor vehicle. Um, the public tag agents in Louisiana are allowed to do about 85 to 90% of all the transactions that the DMV can do. I mean, only limitations we have are to like CDL licenses and certain clearances like DWIs and that kind of stuff. But when people comes to like their tickets, they have no insurance flags against their driver's licenses, renewals, change of addresses, someone moving from Texas to Louisiana need a new driver's license, bring their vehicles in, a public tag agent can do that in the state of Louisiana for additional fee. So that's why they pretty much call us public tag agents, but we're pretty much private Department of Motor Vehicles. Every single one of our team members have to go through background checks, just like a state employee. So we're audited, we're overseen by the Office of Motor Vehicle in the state of Louisiana. So pretty much the company is only pretty much paying their salaries but we hold to the same standard as like a motor vehicle employee when it comes to doing that. So
Yeah, sounds very similar to us.
yes. So, any kind of transaction to that. And Louisiana right now is in the process of upgrading because their system is like 60 to 65 years old. So we're very excited. We had a new rollout coming out in September of this year with the final rollout coming out September of next year. And they said once that happens, we'll pretty much be 100% with all the transactions that motor vehicle can do with the new system. So that's pretty much what a public tag agent and what we do.
Thanks for that background.
Yeah. So over the years with FastPass is mostly focused on dealing with the public. We do help lenders and dealers, but that is the least part of their business. But like previously who I used to work for, I worked for Casey & Casey, which was the first public tag agent in the state of Louisiana in 1993. And then we were sold to DealerTrack. And then when DealerTrack pulled out of Louisiana, FastPass kind of stepped in and took over the operations for them. So dealer work and public has been very much a large part of my background history. And so when I was at AMVA, it was the AMVA in Atlanta is where I met with Jeff and Sarah. And I think I've met you there too, Shannon.
Yeah.
It was just like a hello.
It was Atlanta.
How you doing?
I couldn't remember the state, but that's what it was.
Yeah. But she did an awesome presentation and we were like, we need something to kind of keep the organization because you have just customers walking in, but customers want to walk in and go in and out. And yes, most services only take 10 to 15 minutes to do, if you're connecting them with the right team member that can help them. And of course, getting them in and out for their lunch periods. Lunch is always like a busy time because everybody wants to come in during their lunch, take care of their registration, their driver's license, whatever, and get out right before the day's end or before, first thing in the mornings. So when we were walking around and I was talking and I was like, when she gave this presentation, I'm like, this is what we need because having 4 locations across the state and, my offices are anywhere from 1 hour to 2.5 hours away from where I was located. It was very easy for me to use the WaitWell, the dashboard, and I could check on them. I would just keep it up throughout the day and just like flip between the offices, how they're doing,
it gets
what they're
very
doing.
addictive, doesn't it?
Yes.
Like, I wonder how they're doing.
At
I'm
least
like,
every
do I need to
hour.
call somebody to come in today?
Yes. Every hour, I was just saying where they're at, who they have in their line, who they have in their queue, where they're at. And then, of course, it became very good with the reporting aspect of it to be able to see which team members were taking the longest on what transactions.
Mhm.
Is it a training issue that I need to work with those team members? Or was it really, I could dig a little deeper because then you could see what customer they took the longest with. Because as she said, you could pull up that customer's record and say, they were with this customer for 50 minutes where they should have been with this customer for like 20 minutes. And then we could really go pull the files for that day to see if it was something really complicated or discuss with our team members to say, what took you so long with that customer? Why it was such a long period of time with them? Or was it something that the team member just was not understanding and had to get additional help, you know what I mean, to get the thing processed. So this has helped us a lot with our training develop. We have a very strict training development in place, but this actually
Yeah.
helped us a lot to identify who needs additional training in what areas and where to go with it, you know. So this, we've
So
been using that
speaking of
report very much.
training, what was it like for your staff to start using WaitWell? Like, did you find there was sort of resistance to yet another software application, and how did you handle
No,
that?
actually, no. When I did this, they were like, this is awesome. Because like you said, that person that sat right there, that first desk when they would come in the morning, come in, everybody was like, can I ask a question? Can I do this? Can I do this here? Can I do this? And so the person she was helping was always stuck at her desk an extra 30 minutes because people were walking in asking questions. So when I told them that, they were like, oh, this is awesome. So they absolutely loved it. I think we took 2 days, maybe an hour or 30-minute sessions, and all 32 of our employees were trained in using the system. And I fuss them a little bit because sometimes if they go to lunch, they forget to say, I'm done with the customer.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they walk off. And so it looks like they're with the customer for like an hour and 15 minutes instead of like 15 minutes. But I would say that is probably the most thing. But if they have another customer, they just hit, like she said, next customer, done, next customer, and it throws the next customer. The thing that we love the
Yeah.
most is there's certain transactions at that team members have to have a certain amount of experience and work a certain amount of years that the Department of Motor Vehicle will not allow certain team members to do. They have to have like a special capability to do that. So this has allowed us to let only those team members to see those appointments. Or when those team members come in, or like somebody comes in and says, I'm moving from out of state, I need to do an out of
Mhm.
state driver's license. That transaction in Louisiana takes about 45 minutes because you actually have to get on the phone with headquarters, the OMV headquarters, and they have to do certain things for you to be able to process that transaction. So
Yeah.
this
We
has
have the same thing
allowed,
here, but ours is a database, but it's like it was built during the Flintstones.
right,
And yeah, it takes
yeah,
and there's always one province that won't come up and you can't close it out until that province comes out. So same thing, about 45 minutes.
yeah, it takes about 45 minutes. So it's good because every location has about 2 or 3 team members that is allowed to do this transaction. So it allowed us to block off our calendars that we only have appointments made during those times. And then of course we have someone that's covering for lunch. So we know like this person has to cover this person for lunch. So it helps us with staffing as well. So if somebody comes in, you know, so the reporting and the best thing that I will tell you what my team members loved the most when they found out I could color code the transactions. They absolutely love that. All of our driver's licenses are in blue. Our colors are blue or navy, pink, and green. So they're like, can we have all the driver's license in blue, all the vehicle registrations in navy, and then we are a notary state. So we have notary only too. It's like when people come in just wanting documents notarized. So only have like 2 notaries in each office. So this way, my notaries know to pull those transactions first. So that customer's not waiting, sitting in a long line, and they just needed notary work. because they're
Yeah,
doing
we did
something else.
exactly the same thing. We have commissioner for oaths. So,
Yeah.
did you find that by being able to match your customers with the right service provider and not having that wasted time where, you have a junior staff member that can't notarize something,
Yeah,
calling somebody who for service and then having to put them back in line. Did you find that all of that helped to reduce the overall wait times in your office?
definitely. It has. I mean, our Google reviews since we have gotten WaitWell, I would say if out of a 5 star, most of my offices are running, like you said, a 4.6, a 4.5, just because but I mean, of course, my team members are like, hey, we have our little QR code, give us a review type thing, or text us, how y'all send the thing at the end of the
Yeah.
thing. A lot of my customers do reply to it. So it has really helped, and it makes our team members feel good, and it allows us to kind of reward. Once a month, we kind of like, well, who's gotten the most positive reviews? And we give them like nothing major to separate it, but it's like everybody then is trying to go above and beyond because they want to kind of like be recognized for their
Right.
customer service. You know,
Yeah.
everyone wants
It's
that
really not a
customer
big
satisfaction
ask when you
culture.
provide somebody on their phone with the link right to your Google My Business. It
Yes.
takes seconds. It's really not a lot to ask customers to do that. So you do find it does get you a whole lot more. And as a marketing person, I can tell you that that really improves your SEO and your AI visibility as well.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
another thing too, we had a person just saying with you, she came in, she stole something out of the office when she walked to the bathroom. Guess what? She gave us all her information. So we knew right away we could go pull up we went to WaitWell, pulled up her phone number, pulled up her name, then we could track her and see what transaction we did. Actually, she came in and renewed her driver's license. So that was even like she was caught so thin because then we could pull up her driving record and say, hey, Mr. Police Officer, she came in, she walked into the back office, she walked to, because somebody left the back door open, just they had walked to go grab something out the storeroom, left the back door open. They walked into our office, took the 2 phones off the desk, and she walked out. So it is very helpful with that. And as well as the auditor came in and they were like, this person's been going around, so we need to audit paperwork. And so we were able to track that person by that, pull up what record we did, what we didn't have the fraudulent file with them, but they were being accused with a fraudulent file through another PTA. But they could see that they did something in our office, so they could come in and we could track through WaitWell because nobody had the phone number for the person for the
Yeah.
previous office. But of course, they had the phone. They gave us their correct phone number here, so it helped with like an auditor investigation as well on that.
So that's a really good example of kind of internal communication. But I'm curious if you use, so there's some features in WaitWell, like for example, the ability to put a note on a ticket, which is visible within the
Mm-hmm.
queue. Is that something that your staff used at all? And if so, how did that benefit them?
Our staff used it, especially during Real ID, that Real
Okay.
ID deadline. Okay. The government across the board promoted it incorrectly. Everyone thought that if you didn't have your Real ID by May 7th, your driver's license was not valid. We had so many customers come in and say, if I don't get the Real ID by this date, sir, are you traveling? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? No, we're not. Okay, look, the lines are out the door. The lines were out the door. So it was really great. People could come in, sign in on the queue. We could give them wait times. Most of our locations are very close to shopping malls, to this. The location I actually work out, we have a deli, we have an ice cream place in there, we have a cookie place in there, we have 2 boutiques. So people would check in and I'm like, okay, y'all can go shopping, go have some lunch. We will send you a text message when it's time for you to come back in line, because right now, and in the state of Louisiana, our system, because it was dinosaur system, it was going down 4 out of 8 hours every single day during that time because it could not handle the traffic across the whole entire state when it was doing the Real IDs. So we could sit there and communicate. We love that SMS because we could communicate. We could send like mass text. Louisiana, we had a big snowstorm. We're not used to that. We had 11 inches of snow in January last year. So I was able to send a mass communication to all of our appointments and say, hey, due to the snowstorm, we are closed today, da, da, da. And we could communicate to all of our appointments through there and tell them, look, we need to reschedule, do, and all of that. As for the note thing, that's what we would do. So we had somebody triaging the, the people for real ID. Come in. What are you here for? I need to get my real ID. Okay, well, do you have this document, this document, this document, this document? Oh, no, I don't have my birth certificate. Okay, go ahead and go home because you're on a wait anyway. So we would go in and put a note. Customer's going to return. They were missing this.
Yeah,
So
we did that a lot too.
So when the person came in, it was an internal note. Everyone knew because what we were doing, we were making copies of their right paperwork. We were stapling it together and we're like, you bring this back. This is what you need to hand to the person when you get to your desk. Okay, this is all you need. This is what you need, but you need to bring your birth certificate with it. So when they pulled it up and they looked at the paperwork and they were like, oh, your birth certificate, they could see the note. Well, I need to ask you for the birth certificate because that's what's missing for what you're going to hand me. We had like a customer one time that was very kind of like irate. So they had to leave. So they put that customer left with the birth certificate. They were kind of irate. So whoever gets them next, kind of like, but it was an
Watch out.
internal note. Watch out, just be careful. If you need to call manager, call the manager to assist, so that little note
We
thing
also
gets
use the
used
notes a
all
lot
the
for
time.
language because we had 17 languages on staff. And
Yes,
so sometimes we would put a note like Vietnamese or
right.
Cantonese or whatever. And then that made it really easy then for the right staff member to grab that ticket. And it just really cut down on all of the kind of like, I don't have a name for it, but like when the customer gets to the counter, but then has to go back in the line and wait for a different person. So
Yes,
it really streamlined a lot of that.
yeah. And it
Um,
streamlined the frustration and the customized messaging. We love that. We worked with your team to customize our messages, like what we want to say when it's text. Like you're next in line, and they allowed us to even put, like when we send emails, to put our logo in that, so the customer knew it was truly coming from us. It wasn't some type of like spam email going out to them. So it was
right.
really, our customers appreciated that as well as the team did as well.
Yeah. We can actually do that in different languages too. So like the can detect the browser setting of the person's phone. So if you're in a jurisdiction where there's a common second language in some provinces in Canada, things have to go out in French and English. But that can become really cumbersome. So it can actually detect what browser settings the person is using. So if their browser settings are set to French, then it'll go out in French.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jill. We love working with OMB. It's been really great. One of the
Yeah.
things that we love about working in public service delivery is that they give us a lot of great ideas about how we can make our product better. So we're always listening, and almost every feature that we have is because customers said, oh, what about this situation? Or, what about when we have a snowstorm? Or what if there's, we're bilingual or whatever. And so that's really how our products evolve. And then Jill and your team have definitely helped us to make our product better. So I appreciate that and also being here today and sharing your experience.
Yes,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Beth, are there
Yes.
any questions?
I don't have any questions in there. It's been a lot of conversating. I think a lot of the questions that are probably populating in people's mind, you guys are tackling it through these questions back and forth. And it's wonderful. I love the fact of the color coding. I think that's ideal. Also, the heads up for our team. There's a lot of times in my agency as well, Jill, where we have a problem customer or a customer that, maybe they've come in before or whatever the scenario is. And it's the best thing we can do to provide the best customer service and experience. So I think, Jill, everything you shared there is on key and on point for the questions that were running through my mind about how it was utilized. I also, as a business owner, Shannon, and listening to Jill's feedback about this, the fact that we can have that pulse, especially for a closure or a delay in our offices, those communications are so necessary. And having that explanation, Jill, how you went through some of the things during COVID, but also weather related, because I was down there when you guys got hit with that ice storm
Yeah.
in Louisiana, very unexpectedly. And it did cause for a lot because, you guys don't have snow plows down there.
No, we don't have
Um,
snowballs. You just stuck at home or you're stuck wherever you're at. You just wait for it to melt. Yep.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I fully witnessed all of that. So, and then also the real ID. I know we've had a lot of conversations, you and
Mhm.
I, about the system modernization and the system challenges
Yeah.
alone that have been going on in Louisiana. So it's really good to hear that feedback because these are things that it's happened before, it's happening now, but we're going to run into these same problems again. So it's best for us to have a solution. And this is, I think, a great solution in so many ways to keep it moving, but internally support each other of what's going on a file.
Yeah, and it's great that we have be able to make the appointment as well as take those walk-in customers because we have customers that says, I can't make an appointment because I'm not sure I can get away from work on that time. But oh, I could get away from work today and I kind of like could walk in and they knew they could get in and out majority of the time because like you said, we we have all the reporting there to know when our busy times is to make sure we have additional staff. Even if they're not on the line, they're in the back. And if push comes to shove, they can move to the front very quickly because we have them staffed in the office somewhere that they could stop what they're doing to go help those customers. That we're keeping
Exactly.
all those transactions within that 10 to 20 minutes max. Our wait
Mhm.
times most of the time is no more than 10 minutes right now. And people love that. I can do this on my lunch hour, you know, but
Exactly.
we're having this staff, or I can do this because I left work an hour early today. I could come in
Mhm.
and take care of this, so it's been the system, and I just have to praise the staff at WaitWell. Anytime I have a problem, a question, anything, within 30 minutes, I'm getting a response. Someone's helping me working through it. So she has the best staff in
Who's your
high
CSR,
praises
Jill,
for
that
her
you talk
staff.
to?
High praise.
I was gonna second that. Yes,
Yes.
Shannon, you have wonderful staff. I'm the time that I've had opportunity in person with both Sarah and Jeff has just been an absolute pleasure. They represent Waitwell very well. No
Hmm.
pun intended
Yeah.
there. Well, but Shannon, it's just, having you take the time with Jill today and go through, your backstory, how this was developed, I think just helps to really just sink in with our community about why this was developed, why it was needed, and how it served a purpose, and helped with your 17 station operation. And then with Jill with all the multiple offices. I think that anyone that doesn't have a solution like this in their offices right now, especially one that has multiple locations, they are
Yeah.
missing the boat on getting the customers in and out, and honestly the money made, because time saved also is more money into our agency's pockets because we work off of service fees. We have a fee
Your
for every
throughput.
trans. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly, Shannon. So, I mean, I can run on about this stuff forever, but I'm not going to do that because, oh, Beth's on her soapbox. So I'll take myself back off that soapbox and just see if there's anyone that's in the audience that wants to come off mute and ask Shannon or Jill a question or share an experience of something that you had occur in your office. I don't know. Everyone's just really happy listening to this. I think just
I think
having a
Karen
touch
came
on
off
it.
mute.
Oh, did Karen
Yeah.
come off mute? Karen?
I thought so, but I don't hear her.
No.
Um,
That's okay. It looked like I know earlier when I called her out, I was like, mute, not mute. That's okay. Um, Shell, I know you were chatting on in the chat box about Colorado and some of those things. I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to add in, maybe anything to share with those offices that would help out Shannon or Jeff, a problem maybe that they're faced with, that you're thinking that this might be a good solution for them.
No, they're already talking about having those talks because Colorado just barely did their new system update, but the system update is more driver's license, regular walk-in customer situated. It's not an e-modern, it's not a modernization title transfer. So I know they're going to be talking for some time, but just knowing
Mm.
um there's 65 counties out there. So when you're
Yep.
dealing with, El Paso is great to work with. Denver's not so much. Boulder has a lot of information. Understaffing is, statewide. So
Mhm.
seeing that there's a possibility to, possibly have them go out there and start with those more forward-thinking counties. I mean, sadly enough, Denver will probably be the last county they work on just because they're so behind and so short-staffed. But it would be
Mhm.
so wonderful just to get some of these already started, especially when they're already a progressive county. And so just seeing this information,
Sure.
and most counties have multiple locations, putting a customer in a queue that has this person was here before and just needs this one thing. I mean, like I
Mhm.
said, I have a DMV background. I can't even imagine this technology and having something where you're saying that not only do you have customer service staff, but you're committing to customer service by using this app. I'm really excited to see what it can do in that state. So I'm just kudos for me. I mean, I don't know when it'll happen, but knowing that there's talks is good enough for me.
Thanks, Shell. I think that insight on the different county offices helps too, because, we deal with a lot of jurisdictions that have multiple county offices. I know, Texas, where you're at now, one of them, 202 different counties. So I think that the county offices are a whole nother area, Shannon, that really needs help in the community. And
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
seeing,
We talked about
a,
it a lot.
yeah, and we're seeing so many, I know, Shell, good grief, Texas. um but with all of the variances in counties, I mean, we see the differences when it comes down to some of the how the business rules are followed for the title and registration processing. But then, just like what Shell was mentioning, we reach out to different counties a lot of times, depending upon knowing that they are short staffed, or they have better information. So I think tools like this would be very helpful in those county offices as well. So it's good to hear that you guys are having some conversations there. And it looks like Jeff's sharing some things in the chat. He loves counties, first off. So we'll do a heart for our counties, because we do love our county offices. They do a lot of work to support our third party offices, but we need to make sure that they know about these things too, Shannon. So it sounds like that through some of the contacts that Shell has there, she can maybe pass some more of this on to them as well. So that'll be good. And it looks like Jeff shared he's getting on the road for Texas and Florida. Yeah. Yep. Those county offices. Thanks, Jeff. He is out there, Shannon, doing a great job.
Yes, he certainly is. Like I said, he got in late last night. So
Well,
he's on the road a lot. He's a true road warrior.
he is a road warrior. You are absolutely correct. Well, it's always great to see him out and about. I mean, he's such a positive person to be around, to the point, and just loves to bring a good solution to the table. So it's been great. Don't see any other questions, just so you ladies know. But I do
Well, thank you
encourage,
so much,
yeah,
Beth.
sure.
This has been
Yeah.
wonderful. We really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And Jill, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Jill, so much. I think that this recording and this time together is going to be very worth passing forward in the community. Shannon, if there's anything else that you'd like me to add, happy to do that. I know Jeff and I have been working on a lot of information back and forth to share with the community, but I will share our registration list, and then that way you have an opportunity to go and talk with each of the registered to our webinar today. And you can do some follow up, because I know we didn't have a lot of questions come out of everyone, but I bet you some one offs are going to pop up based on what certain offices need. Everybody's different, but this is a great solution across the board, Shannon. We do appreciate your time and you as a business partner with NIFTA.
Likewise. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Shannon. And thank you, Jill, so much for your
Thanks.
time. It's always great to see you, and look forward
No
to
problem.
catching up with you soon.
Yes. All right. Y'all have a good
Take care,
afternoon.
everybody.
Thanks.
All right. Have a
Bye-bye.
good day. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.